Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, there are two things you're never late for: Fight and Quip's football games and church. The good people of Aliquippa are united by their convictions, but they're also connected by memories of a tragic mystery that once gripped their town. Reuben Fuller lives the good life in Aliquippa. He spends his afternoons working with a high school football team. And in the evenings, he spends quality time with his loving wife, Hope. After a hard day's work, Hope and Reuben love to unwind with their next-door neighbors, the Samuels.
Just a lot of fun. We did a lot of barbecuing, talked about a lot of sports.
William, his wife Teresa, and their son Brian have lived next door to Hope and Reuben for many wonderful years. It's a happy life, until one evening when Hope hears something very strange.
I was sitting at my computer playing solitaire as usual, and I heard these sounds. They sounded like pops, but they weren't all the same.
A frantic 911 call goes out.
Beaver County 911, you have an emergency.
There's gunshots up here on 4th Avenue. I think someone's been shot behind my neighbor's truck.
Is there a person down?
Yeah, it looks like he fell down.
Detective Timmy Patrick receives the call.
It's such a close-knit neighborhood. Good people live there. Like, I just knew something went wrong in that particular area, and I had to get there as fast as I can.
But his unease as he races to the scene isn't just from the nature of the call.
Being from Aliquippa, born and raised, I know everybody. When you hear a gunshot call, especially with injuries, you fear that it's definitely someone you know.
Detective Patrick is about to find out just how grim the situation is.
Once I arrived in the area of 4th Avenue, it was a very chaotic scene. To my right, I observed the victim laying right here over a trailer hitch. He had 2 gunshot wounds, one to the abdomen, one to the facial area.
Detective Patrick's worst fears are confirmed when he discovers the victim is William Samuel.
I knew the Samuels quite well. I was stunned.
But this nightmare is about to get worse.
I heard a loud scream that there was another victim. I entered the residence, and I could smell a strong odor of gunpowder. And between the living room and the kitchen area, I observed Mrs. Samuels laying there.
William's wife, Teresa, has also been murdered in her own home. As investigators set up a perimeter, they try to make sense of what happened here.
The crime scene was something I'd never seen before in my life. You don't expect to see someone laying in the middle of the street, and inside, Mrs. Samuels just laying there in a pool of blood.
Sadly, there is one tragic witness to these cold-blooded murders. The Samuels' teenage son, Brian.
Brian was very upset. He was screaming, "No, no, not my father."
Police take the traumatized boy back to the station to try to make sense of this baffling crime. Meanwhile, word travels quickly in small towns, and by the next day, the news has hit like a shockwave. For Mary and Melinda, a bright day at the farmer's market is tinged with sadness.
I can't believe that happened to them. I just feel so bad for that family. They were such nice people. Oh, I know. And poor Brian. It's hard for a kid to deal with that.
But the Aliquippa PD is about to help. As Police Chief Bill Alston takes up the case, he knows this will be unlike anything he's worked before.
I was personally shocked when I went in and saw the actual crime scene. I mean, the coldness and callousness of the individuals that carried this out.
The Samuels were shot multiple times.
He was laying over the trailer hitch with 2 gunshot wounds. Mrs. Teresa Samuels, she had suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to the back and one to the head area. There was numerous spent rounds, 9mm casings, shotgun shells, and also inside the living room area was a smoke haze of gunpowder.
So it was fresh?
It was fresh. You can actually smell it. So we just missed the assailants by maybe a minute or 2 at the most.
The killers race away from the scene, But in their haste, they make a critical mistake.
Did you get a chance to talk to Brian?
Yes, we did. It went pretty well.
Brian Samuels saw everything, and now he's ready to talk.
The gist of it is this. Brian was upstairs in his bedroom when he heard a knock at the door. He came down, his mother was in the kitchen, and his father was in the living room.
For the first time, investigators learn what happened that tragic night.
Did you see your mother get shot? Yes. Did you see your father get shot? Yes.
But when the intruders aimed the gun at Brian, an unlikely stroke of luck saves his life.
The gun was pointed at me, and he kept jamming. And he heard somebody screaming, so he tried to get out of there as fast as he could.
Now, investigators get their own incredible piece of luck.
Do you know who these people were? Yes.
Brian stated that he knew the individuals who had shot his parents. In fact, not only did he know them, he knew them by name.
Every weekend, you can be pretty sure the Fightin' Quips will win another one. And the pregame party is always at Hope and Ruben's home. But this week, the party is missing two of its favorite fans. William and Teresa Samuel have been murdered. But their son Brian is at the station, and he's just handed detectives a whopper of a clue.
Who shot your mother? Jamie Brown. Who shot your father? Sharon Moreland.
And the biggest shock of all, Jamie Brown and Sharon Moreland are Brian's fellow students at Aliquippa High School.
Hey, Chief.
Detective Patrick, we have here.
Still, the boys are no strangers to local police.
They have pretty extensive records.
Yeah, firearms violations, drug conviction.
Check out Jamie.
With a long list of offenses, including reckless endangerment and resisting arrest, detectives are certain they've found their guys.
They both had problems with firearms in the past.
Jamie Brown and Sharon Moreland are unsavory characters indeed. But why would they murder their classmates' parents? Brian Samuel says he has the answer.
Brian told us that the reason this happened to his parents is that he had purchased a firearm for Mr. Jamie Brown.
Did you pay for this weapon? Yes, I did. Was that payment in full? No. How much did you owe? $200. Is that why Jamie came to your house tonight? Yes.
Jamie was retaliating against Brian by killing his parents because of non-payment for that weapon.
As investigators race to get these violent suspects off the street, apprehension is brewing in town, especially among those who knew the classmates.
Yeah, I can't believe something like that happened. It's terrible. Who would have thought these two boys were capable of doing something like this?
They were trouble, but not like this. I mean, they just destroyed their entire lives, you know?
While the town of Aliquippa buzzes with the news, investigators are busy locating their suspects. But they're surprised when Jamie Brown and Sharon Moreland are easy to find.
Initially, we thought that they may run off because of the nature of his crime, but they did not. One was picked up at his home, and the other one turned himself into law enforcement.
Detectives question both boys, but each suspect refuses to confess.
We started questioning them, and they vigorously denied that they had anything to do with this homicide.
Still, why would police believe a couple of boys with criminal records?
These individuals have been involved with gun violations in the past, so they were familiar with law enforcement.
Not for the first time, both boys are locked away in the county jail. As word gets out about the arrest, many residents of Aliquippa are uneasy.
I'm just in shock. Our whole community is in shock right now.
But Mary and Melinda are glad to know their beloved town can finally try to move on.
Well, I really hope that our community can recover from something like this.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And the town of Aliquippa does its best to get back to business as usual. But back on 4th Avenue, the neighbors who knew the Samuels well suspect this horrible tragedy is not over.
When Brian came by the next morning to tell me who he had turned in, who he told the police had done the crime, I I knew something wasn't right about it. Something just was not right.
Could these neighbors' misgivings mean anything? No one is sure until detectives receive some shocking tips from their own small town.
I was starting to get information that pretty much floored Chief Austin and myself.
And everyone realizes this case is far from over. Ball-obsessed Aliquippa. Fans and teammates alike are reeling from a shocking crime. Police have 2 students locked up for the murder of William and Teresa Samuel, but both suspects insist they're not guilty.
It was very shocking to hear them so vigorously deny their involvement.
And with no physical evidence linking these suspects to the crime, detectives wonder, could there be more here than meets the eye? The town of Aliquippa thinks yes.
We received complaints from the citizens that we may have the wrong individuals. Chief Austin speaking.
Everyone in Aliquippa is uneasy. For the Rossi family, opening their restaurant and airing their suspicions go hand in hand.
You know, I thought this thing was pretty weird. I kind of think there's something else going on.
Yeah, when I read about it, it seemed kind of funny. It was a strange set of facts involved.
Strange set of facts indeed. Is it possible that this case is not yet tied up? As rumors begin to swirl around town,
what's going on?
One in particular has the community captivated.
I think you know something, we did something.
And detectives start to hear about it.
I'm starting to get information about an individual named Shay Turner.
Shay Turner is a classmate of Brian's, but he also deals in firearms.
I received information about Shay Turner as maybe being someone that knew some information about this homicide. Definitely want to talk to him.
Detectives do some digging on Shay Turner, and they aren't surprised to find out he's already wanted.
There was already an outstanding warrant for his arrest for an auto theft.
Investigators bring Shay Turner to the station and question him. They start with the auto theft charge.
He was very, very nervous, very shaky, and we questioned him for a while.
But when detectives switch their focus to the Samuels homicide, they're stunned by what Shay reveals.
He jumped from his seat and said, hey, you know, I know what happened, but I didn't kill anybody.
And what Shay says next throws the entire investigation into a tailspin.
He went on to say that the 2 individuals that you have locked up in jail are not the ones that did it.
Shay claims that 2 other students, Pete Schoonover and Travis Durham, are the real culprits in the murder of Brian Samuel's parents.
It was a bit shocking. Their names had not come up on the radar before.
But Shay Turner is sure he's right.
Who told you what happened in the house?
Pete did. I seen Pete in school, and he said he shot the mom in the head.
Why would he tell you?
Because he's my friend.
If Shay is telling the truth, then police have the wrong culprits in jail. But can detectives trust Shay Turner?
When Shay started to tell the story of what had happened, he knew information that only a person that was involved with or very close to the investigation would know. He, in fact, told us that he had supplied the weapons for this crime, a shotgun and a 9mm pistol.
According to the evidence, Shay Turner is telling the truth.
Once we heard that information, as an investigator, you're thinking, oh my God, you know, what did you just stumbled into?
Really kind of shattering to feel that you have the wrong individuals locked up. This is a very, very serious crime, and if they didn't commit it, then they shouldn't be sitting in jail.
Police immediately let Jamie Brown and Sharon Moreland go free and bring in the 2 new suspects for questioning, Travis Durham and Pete Schoonover.
I picked Mr. Schoonover up at the high school and brought him to the police department to be interviewed.
Detectives are shocked when Pete begins to talk freely.
Mr. Schoonover became very excited in telling the story to the point where he didn't need to be asked any questions.
This what happened. They let us in the house, and then that's when it happened. I pulled the trigger. It was like, boom, shot.
Articulate? No. Guilty? Oh, yes. And And when detectives interview co-suspect Trazis Durham, it's the nail in the coffin for these two teens.
He said, I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'll tell you. And what sent a chill up my spine is that he turned around and I was sitting behind him and he said, I'll tell you what happened.
Amazingly, Trazis confesses to the murder of William and Teresa Samuel. But the biggest shock of all is still to come.
The story was so chilling that it just froze everybody in the room. And at that point, his mom reacted and said, you know, didn't you know? Those were our friends. What did you do? And he replied, well, Mom, it was for 5 Gs.
Someone paid these two teens to kill the Samuels. But who? Once again, the good people of Aliquippa may provide the answer.
I was getting calls about Brian, or, you know, something just didn't seem right.
Could grieving son Brian Samuel be the mastermind behind his parents' murders? In Aliquippa, 2 students have confessed to shooting William and Teresa Samuel. But the identity of the mastermind behind the murder-for-hire scheme remains a mystery. But as the rumors buzz louder and louder,
did Brian know of them?
Yeah, Brian knew them.
one name rises to the top: the victim's son, Brian Samuel.
People would stop by the house, say, did you realize that Brian's driving around blasting his music in that tracker? I received so many phone calls from people from my street, from other streets, wondering what's wrong with Brian.
What is wrong with Brian? He certainly couldn't have anything to do with the murder of his own parents. Or could he?
I'm receiving phone calls all hours of the night about Brian's whereabouts. He was driving around, speeding up and down the streets, playing his music loud, joking, laughing, something that is not consistent with being a witness to a double homicide, or much less your own parents.
It's well known that there are 5 stages of grief. Looks like Brian has gotten to acceptance a bit quickly.
I didn't know what to make of it until I saw it for myself. I saw Brian just driving at a high speed and just basically laughing and giggling. He was doing it right in front of me. So that definitely sent a red flag up that something is not right.
Armed with their newfound suspicion and the facts of Brian's strange behavior, detectives pressed the 2 shooters for more information and get exactly what they were looking for.
Brian came up to me at school, and he offered me some money to kill his family.
Brian actually orchestrated the entire affair, and it was over money.
Apparently, Brian Samuel had been stealing money from his family.
Once his mother and father found out, they confronted Brian, or Brian wanted something done about his parents, showing him right from wrong.
To the Samuels' dear friends, the cost of Brian's greed is painfully high.
He was a sport kid. He got everything he wanted. I mean...
Well, I say he got more than he wanted.
I just can't believe he did this. Made his mind up and figured it all out how to arrange this.
But this selfish boy is about to get exactly what he deserves.
We went to the area of 4th Avenue, and it was a day that everybody was outside because it was a beautiful afternoon. Brian showed up to go home, and at that time I approached Brian and I advised him that he was under arrest for the murder of his parents. The crowd actually erupted in cheer and began clapping.
At their trial, Brian Samuel, along with shooters Pete Schoonover and Trazis Durham, are charged with 2 counts of homicide and conspiracy to commit murder. None show any remorse, and all 3 are sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. In the town of Aliquippa, it's finally time to try to heal.
It hurt. It hurt a lot. When they finally arrested the 3 young men, I felt a sense of relief because I felt this time they have the right people.
The good people of Aliquippa know that this tragic game is finally over, And though they'll always miss their good friends William and Teresa,
We miss him, but he's there.
Always in our hearts.
Always.
the score is now final.
Never forget you, baby.
And the best team won.